Good evening and welcome to State of Business on Art Television. I'm Chavika Samarasinghe. Let's have a look at the headlines. International Monetary Fund. Approval stimulates growth. Nation seeks to expand exports through Africa. News in detail. The International Monetary Fund Executive Board recently approved the lifeline for Sri Lanka. The $3 billion 4-year extended fund facility agreement will deliver stability and stimulate growth. The IMF said the program supports Sri Lanka's economic policies and reforms. The objectives of the EFF supported program are to restore macroeconomic stability and debt sustainability, safeguarding financial stability and stepping up structural reforms to unlock Sri Lanka's growth potential. All program measures are mindful of the need to protect the most vulnerable and improve governance. IMF said close collaboration between Sri Lanka and all its creditors will be critical to expedite a debt treatment that will restore debt stability consistent with program parameters. The International Monetary Fund recalled that Sri Lanka has been hit hard by a catastrophic economic and humanitarian crisis. The economy is facing significant challenges stemming from pre-existing vulnerabilities and economic missteps in the lead-up to the crisis, further aggravated by a series of external shocks. The EFF-supported program aims to mitigate the economic impact on the poor and vulnerable and strengthen governance and growth potential. The Executive Board's decision will enable an immediate disbursement equivalent to $333 million and catalyze financial support from other development partners. It has been reported that Sri Lanka's private creditors are considering a proposal to swap defaulted bonds with new securities. These new securities would have cash flow linked to the nation's future growth, according to people familiar with the matter. State Minister of Finance Shehan Semasinghe holds that Sri Lanka wants to start talks with private creditors as fast as possible. President Ranil Wickremesinghe recently emphasized that Sri Lanka is no longer deemed a bankrupt country by the world. President Wickremesinghe did so during a special statement following the approval of the IMF credit facility.
ඊයේ ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය අරමුදලේ කළමනාකාර මණ්ඩලය ශ්‍රී ලංකාව සමග විස්තර ණය පහසුකම් එකඟතාවය අනුමත කරා. ඒ අනුමත කිරීමෙන් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවට ඒ ණය ප්‍රතියෝගත කිරීමේ ශක්තියක් තියෙන බවට සහතික කරලා තියෙන්නේ. ශ්‍රී ලංකාව බංකොලොත් රටක් හැටියට මින් පස්සේ සලකන්නේ නැහැ. ඒ නිසා සාමාන්‍ය ගණදෙනු ආරම්භ කරන්නට පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම අපේ විදේශ විනිමය තත්ත්වය දියුණුවෙන්ට අද ආනයන සීමා ක්‍රමානුකූලව ඉවත් කරන්නට යනවා. අත්‍යවශ්‍ය භාණ්ඩ, ඖෂධ, සංචාරක ව්‍යාපාරයට වගේ උවමනා භාණ්ඩය ඒ පළවෙනි වටේට ඇතුළත් වෙනවා. දැන් අපි මෙතන ඉඳන් ඉදිරි ගමන ගෙනියන්න ඕනේ මේ එකතාවයේ අනුව. දැන්ට මාගේ යුතුයකම අපිට මේ එකතාවයේ ලබා ගන්නට ක්‍රියා කරපු රටවල් සියල්ලටමත් IMF ලෝක බැංකුවේ ප්‍රධානීන් දෙන්නටත් මගේ ස්තුතිය ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න. මේ ගැන මම සම්පූර්ණ ප්‍රකාශයක් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ හිට කරනවා. ඒ වගේම ගිවිසුමත් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ සභාගත කරනවා.
Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena has said the approval of the IMF support program will help Sri Lanka open international doors for the economy. The Premier made this remark during a progress review meeting of the Alut Gamak Alut Ratak National Development Program. The project is a multi-sectoral joint mechanism for empowering rural economic revitalization centers to ensure food security and nutrition. Premier Gunawardena said that one of the main problems the country faces was the foreign exchange shortage and the international debt payment crisis. According to him, this temporarily cut off financial institutions that worked with Sri Lanka and had an adverse effect on the implementation of financial policies. Meanwhile, Central Bank of Sri Lanka Treasury bill holdings increased by 121 billion rupees on the 15th of March as a result of the settlements of domestic and external debt payments due on that date. The Treasury bond settlement on the 15th of March was partially settled with printed money as the auction was undersubscribed. the central bank only managed to reissue 110 billion rupees to the market at their respective primary auction. However, the central bank was able to raise an additional 30 billion rupees via treasury bill auction on the 17th of March to reduce money printing from 121 billion to 98 billion rupees. Further, foreign holdings in rupee bonds recorded an increase of 16.38 billion rupees for the week ending 15th March, according to Wealth Trust Securities. In the week ending 9th of March, foreign holdings in rupee bonds increased by 7 billion rupees. The daily US dollar Sri Lankan rupee average traded volume for the first 4 days of the week stood at 47.73 million US dollars. Stay tuned. We will return after this commercial break.
වයිකම් ටෙලිස් 2022 වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නළුවා අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල. වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නිලිය අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල. විසිදක ජාතියේ ටෙලි සම්මාන මාර්තු 25 සෙනසුරාදා සවස 5ට ෂැන්ග්‍රිලා හෝටල් පරිශ්‍රයේදී.
Welcome back. President Ranil Wickremesinghe today tabled in Parliament the approval of the IMF credit facility. Approval by the Executive Board for the International Monetary Fund was received earlier in the week.
අපේ මාතෘභූමිය යලිත් ඔසවා තබන්නට අවකාශ උදා වී තියෙනවා. මේ ණය පහසුකම් යටතේ වසර 4ක කාලයක් තුල අපට ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් බිලියන 3ක පමණ ආධාරයක් හිමි වෙනවා. ඇමරිකානු ඩොලර් මිලියන 330ක ප්‍රමාණයක් එහි පළමු වාරිකය වශයෙන් දැන් අපට ලැබී තියෙනවා. ලෝක බැංකුව සහ වෙනත් ණය ආධාර ලබා දෙන පාර්ශවයන් වෙතින් තවත් ඩොලර් බිලියන 7ක පමණ කඩිනම් ණය ආධාර අප බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. IMF විස්තීර්ණ ණය කියන්නේ වැටුණු රටක් යලි යථා තත්ත්වයට පත් කර ගැනීම සඳහා දෙන පහසුකමක්. ඒ සඳහා සකස් කර දෙන වේදිකාවක්. මේ පහසුකම ලබා දීමත් සමග අපේ ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ යලිත් පිළිගැනීමක් ලැබෙනවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තව දුරටත් බංකොලොත් රටක් නොවන බවට සහතිකයක් ලැබෙනවා. අපේ දේශීය බැංකු යලිත් ලෝකයේ පිළිගන්නා මට්ටමට පත් වෙනවා. ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය ආයතන අපේ ණයවර ලිපි වලට ගරු කරනවා. වෙනත් ජාත්‍යන්තර මූල්‍ය ආයතන වලින් ඉතා අඩු පොලියට ණය ආධාර ලබා ගැනීමට පසුබිමක් සැකසෙනවා. විදේශ ආයෝජකයන් යලිත් ලංකාව ගැන විශ්වාසය තිබෙනවා. ජාත්‍යන්තරයේ පුළුල් අවස්ථා ගණනාවකට අපට දොරගුළු හැරෙනවා. ශක්තිමත් නව ආර්ථිකයක් ගොඩනැගීමේ පදනම සකස් වෙනවා. ඒ විතරක් නෙමෙයි. මේ එකඟත්වය නිසා අපේ රටේ මූල්‍ය විනය නීතිගත වෙනවා. දූෂණ වංචා වැළැක්වීමේ දැඩි නීති රීති අලුතෙන් හඳුන්වා දෙනවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ මෙතෙක් නොතිබුණු නව මූල්‍ය සංස්කෘතියක් හා දූෂණයෙන් තොර පරිසරයක් මේ මගින් නිර්මාණය වෙනවා.
Great importance was given to the African continent in the presidential announcement on the 27th anniversary of independence. President Ranil Wickremesinghe also met with envoys from the African region. The meeting was organized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on 3rd February 2023 at the Presidential Secretariat. To coincide with the momentous occasion, Ranjiv Gunawardana, chairman of the International Consultants, is sponsoring a major export-oriented webinar conference. This is in collaboration with the Sri Lanka Export Development Board and the Sri Lanka High Commission in Pretoria. The webinar conference, titled Gateway to Africa, will be a series of events, and the inaugural session will be deliberating on doing business in Mozambique starting on the 28th of March 2023 at 1:30 p.m. Colombo time. The inaugural webinar conference to focus on key sectors from Sri Lanka, comprising the power and energy, civil construction, engineering services and telecommunication sectors. At the pre-launch event on the 10th of March, Ranjiv Gunawardena stated Sri Lanka has a competitive edge compared to its rivals from the Western Hemisphere, due to the cost of labour being far less in comparison to its counterparts. The quality of work is of international standing or even better than their competitors. African countries have signed the African Union Free Trade Agreement. The African Free Trade Agreement comprises 3 protocols which pertain to trade in goods, trade in services, rules, and procedures on the settlement of disputes. The deal creates a continent-wide market embracing 54 countries with 1.3 billion rupees and a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion US dollars. In time to come, it will create a single market similar to the internal market of the European Union, where goods and services can be imported and exported without any tariffs, plus duty-free. Under the African Union Free Trade Agreement, manufactured goods and services will not incur duties and tariffs. When goods are transported from one African country to another, for instance by air, sea or over land, there are no customs duties to be paid. This is a great opportunity for some of the companies in Sri Lanka to take full advantage of exporting the goods and services. Another crucial component is that the majority of African countries are deemed as least developed economies under the UN description. These are eligible for trade preferences, development financing, including official development assistance, debt relief, technical assistance and other forms of support, which means that they have free access to the European and American market duty-free. Thus, Sri Lankan companies could even manufacture goods in the African continent, creating 3 accessible markets. The African Free Trade Agreement areas can be a tremendous opportunity. In the African context, there is funding for all sorts of projects. The European Union has pledged 150 billion euros for investment in Africa, as it seeks to gain influence on the continent and become its partner of choice. America has pledged 55 billion US dollars in economic, health and security support for Africa over the next 3 years. International consultants can access this type of funding for projects in the African continent. This event will provide a great opportunity for Sri Lankan companies and corporations to look at the alternative African market. This is a way Sri Lanka can export itself out of the current economic crisis which has beset the island. Stay tuned for the stock update.
වයිකම් පිලිස් 2022 වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නළුවා අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල. වසරේ ජනප්‍රියතම ටෙලිනාට්‍ය නිලිය අද දිනට ප්‍රතිඵල.
Trading at the Colombo Stock Exchange ended on negative notes today. The all-share price index dropped 77.38 points to close at 9,527.05, and the S&P SL20 dropped 32.48 points to close at 2,768.27. The turnover was 1.5 billion rupees and over 69 million shares were traded. Up next are forex rates. That's all our news for today. For this and more, subscribe to our channel on YouTube and follow us on Facebook. Take care and good night.